Hi everyone, Dave Bradshaw here alongside RevPro owner and booker Andy Quildan. We have just finished what was an absolutely insane West Midlands weekend. We just come off air Sunday live in Coventry. We've got a lot to cover, Andy, because we also want to talk about high stakes yesterday in Wolverhampton. So many headlines from this weekend. I just said, I was just recording the recap, and I just said it's really changed the landscape of Revolution Pro Wrestling in so many ways. But the place I think I want to start is probably the big headline coming out of tonight, which is that we have a new undisputed British women's champion, Alexis Falcon, just 24 hours after she beat Mercedes Mone for 2 other titles. I'm trying to think if anyone has had a 2-day period in RevPro to match what Alexis Falcon has had. We might not like her personally. We can talk about that as well. But oh my God, an unbelievable 48 hours for her.
Yeah, and so many layers to that as well, because, look, Alexis Falcon went into that match with Mercedes Mone, which I think it's fair to say was the biggest match of her professional wrestling career. And she walked into it with swagger and with purpose and poise. And look, like you say, you may disagree with Alexis Falcon, you may disagree with the way she conducts herself sometimes. And look, trust me, in the build up to this match, I believe she's conducted herself deplorably. But she backed up everything she said she was going to do, and she didn't let the situation overcome her. She made a very big point going into that match with Mercedes Mone, saying, listen, Mercedes, you faced a number of competitors who've respected you, who've looked up to you, who've admired you, and I am none of those things. And she wasn't intimidated in the slightest. She walked into the proverbial lion's den. The reaction, the atmosphere towards her was something else, and she thrived off that. You can react in one of 2 ways when you're in that kind of intense situation. You can either thrive on that, or you can let that situation consume you. And she thrived on it, and she became the Body Slam Scandinavian champion. She became Discovery Scottish champion. And Dave, like you say, she used one of the best tools, her mouth, to get herself an impromptu shot at the Undisputed British Women's Championship tonight, where she was able to become the Undisputed British Women's Champion. And again, when I say the layers to this thing, first of all, let's take a minute to respect that match between Alex Windsor and Sapphire Reed tonight for the British Women's Championship. A fantastic match, personal, heated rivalry, which was fought so well between the 2 women. It's a match which I would go out my way to recommend you watch. Just a fantastic contest between those 2. And then obviously Alex Windsor said she wants to be a fighting champion. Disappointed at it was almost like the dream start to her latest Undisputed British Women's Championship reign. Winning that, beating Mercedes Mone, AEW, in front of so many thousands of people, in front of her friends, in front of her family. And then she wanted to be a fighting champion from that point, but for one reason or another, things didn't work out that way, and this was her first championship defense. Ironically, 24 hours after the woman she dethroned last appeared in Revolution Pro Wrestling. So, she said this was the start of something, and she made this even though she was in America this week, only landed back in the country on Friday. She made this date, and she wanted this to be the first of many. She was going to be a fighting champion at anyone, any place, any time. Cue Alexis Falcon. So listen, if you want to see what happened, make sure you check out RevProOnDemand.com. But what we will say is there's a big asterisk next to that, the way Alexis Falcon was able to win that championship. And I think the most heartbreaking thing about it was Kanji, because she took that championship. She came down with the best intentions in mind, taking that championship from Alexis Falcon. We've spoken to Kanji at depth about her feelings towards Alexis Falcon. When she swung that championship belt at Falcon, Falcon ducked. She hit Alex Windsor by mistake. As she was registering what had happened, Alexis Falcon disposed of her, was able to get the 1-2-3 on Alex Windsor. And Kanji I couldn't speak to her after. She was inconsolable.
It's a nightmare scenario this whole weekend for her.
Yeah, and I will genuinely say, I would urge people, if you haven't seen the interview I did with Kanji, I'd urge people to look back and watch that, maybe 2 months ago, maybe a month ago even, and go back on her YouTube channel and watch that, and you'll get an understanding of Kanji's thoughts towards Alexis Falcon, and that can only, and her thoughts around Mercedes Moné, Alex Windsor, the women's division, Revolution Pro Wrestling in general, and that will give you a real insight to what Kanji may be going through right now. So just a crazy 24 hours. And yeah, Alexis Falcon is the big benefactor of it all.
You said in amongst that Alexis Falcon isn't one of those who respects or admires or looks up to Mercedes Moné, but she's very much in the minority there. I do want to spend a moment here and just acknowledge what the fans in Wolverhampton did yesterday after that match. That although Moné unfortunately didn't win against Alexis Falcon, the love in the room for her and for everything that she's done for RevPro over the past year, 14 months now, was palpable.
Yeah, and I think that Alexis Falcon doesn't respect Mercedes Moné. I do. The people do. It's been a whirlwind ride, hasn't it, since Mercedes Moné captured that undisputed British Women's Championship, defeating Mina Shikara at the Tokyo Dome, further cementing the legacy of a British Women's Championship, putting it more in line with our men's undisputed British Heavyweight Championship, which of course we've seen defended at the Tokyo Dome, we've seen it defended Arena Mexico, Madison Square Garden, all the meccas, if you will, of professional wrestling. And Mercedes Moné and the level of Mercedes Moné was one of the contributing factors to that undisputed British Women's Championship being on the line of the Tokyo Dome. And listen, when you think about the Tokyo Dome shows, which are presented every year, you can count a handful of women's matches, let alone undisputed, let alone women's championship matches, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that our championship was on the line at the Tokyo Dome was something very special. It was the start of the magical journey. There was a lot of naysayers at the time. A lot of people saying, so many people, we will never see Mercedes Moné competing in a British wrestling ring, in a Revolution Pro Wrestling ring in the UK. And look what happened. And time after time after time, Mercedes showed up. She showed out. She put on a hell of a show. And she was a role model for everyone backstage. She was someone that our women's division could look up to. She was, she's just been the consummate professional throughout this entire run. And you can see how much it means to her. You can see how much it means to our locker room. And I just genuinely hope that some of the Mercedes Moné fans who kind of come on board this crazy ride that we've been on, hopefully they stay a fan of a Revolution Pro Wrestling product. As we've opened a lot of new eyeballs to RevPro, and I always say, one fan at a time, and that's our mission statement at the end of the day. But if we can get a few more than one fan at a time, then obviously that will just only accelerate where we want to be in this crazy sport. But listen, I think it's the fact that everyone who has worked with her, and be it all the promotions across the world that she's collaborated with as a part of this crazy run, have nothing but positive stories to tell. It tells you all you need to know about the woman, and I'm just very fortunate to have been a part of a journey. I'm very proud to have been a part of that journey, and I think it's a great story in general. Someone who bets on themselves. You're in a position where you're set, you're comfortable, you're secure, and you take a bet on yourself. You say, I want to follow this. I want to follow my heart. And see where that takes me. And I want to help. I want to help bring people up. I want to help show people there's a way, and the fact that, look, you see these people on TV, and when you think about it, it's like, they can seem like, far away because you're watching them through the television set, right? But when she's there in person and the wrestlers are competing on a level with her, then I think that just inspires people. It inspires a generation, the same way that she inspired a generation, with, I hate the terminology, but with the women's revolution, right? she inspired a generation, and you're seeing that with so many young wrestlers. You see the women's division growing. All you got to do is look at the numbers of women wrestlers there were 10 years ago to what there are now, right? And the wrestlers that are developing through now, and Mercedes Moné is so responsible for so much of that, along with many other great female wrestlers as well who help pave the way. And it'll be, I don't want to sit here and rattle off a list of names, because I feel like it would be unfair and I'd be missing people out. So look, I want to make it very clear there's a number of women who are very responsible for this, but it's just so great that one of the pioneers in this kind of new thought process when it comes to women's wrestling and mainstream professional wrestling was with us and working alongside us. So it's been a great experience all around. So nothing but positives to say. And again, I'll say it again. I said it when Mercedes Moné lost the British Women's Championship. I'll say it again now. I hope that this isn't the last we've seen of Mercedes Moné in a Revolution Pro Wrestling ring. But if it is, it's been a ride, and I've appreciated and enjoyed every minute, and I hope the fans have as well.
Well, while we're on the subject of people who've joined us from elsewhere to be in a RevPro ring this weekend, let's talk about Ricochet. Let's talk about the demand and the Gates of Agony, of course, as well. In action both nights, Wolverhampton and Coventry. Ricochet had a list of demands when he briefly decided to join us on Commentary on his way out tonight. So it was a pleasure to have Mercedes Moné here. Was it a pleasure to have them here?
Look, role models, perhaps no, but the way the level of performance. Because look, ultimately, I actually said it on Commentary yesterday. I can't remember what it was in reference to, right? But this is show business, not show friends, right? And in terms of the business side of professional wrestling, in terms of the levels that they produced in the ring, spot on. Like 3 of the most talented and gifted competitors in the world today. And look, we talk about all the time about Revolution Pro Wrestling being pro wrestling at its best. We want to be a benchmark for the best in class when it comes to professional wrestling. And I think when you look at Ricochet, when you look at the Gates of Agony, the demand, when you look at them, they are the personification of top in class when it comes to professional wrestling. And they've had a series of great matches this weekend. The legacy that Ricochet has developed in Revolution Pro Wrestling is something else going back to our early years. And it's great that he's able to add another chapter onto that legacy. So let's not forget the Will Ospreay Ricochet legacy was born in Revolution Pro Wrestling. So, there's so many great moments that he's had here in Rev Pro. And yeah, it was like I say, it was great to have them here, and it was great the levels that they brought, and I think that's something that's been consistent throughout Revolution Pro Wrestling. So many times you hear about, like international talents might come in and for lack of a better term, phone it in or whatever. But what happens is international wrestlers come here, they see the levels, and they know they need to be on that level or above that level, and they rise to the occasion. And everyone, but I think that's what it's not a generalization with international wrestling. It's just wrestling. It's just our wrestling in general. It produces, everyone's pushing one another. Everyone's competing for spots. Everyone wants that attention, and it just brings out the best in everyone. And then in some cases, it brings out the worst in some people. But the end result for us as fans of professional wrestling is just some memorable, great moments. And that's what we've had across the entire weekend.
Ricochet defeated Oku tonight in their first time ever singles match. We're going to talk a bit about Michael Oku in a minute with reference to the Revolution Road tournament, but let's park that for a minute, because while we're still on the demand, I do want to talk a bit about the tag division. GOA, impressive both nights. You said on Commentary as well that they've certainly made their case for maybe a future shot at the tag titles. In our main event tonight, the Young Guns continued their now over a year as undisputed British tag champions with a victory over the Cowboy Way. Again, we'll talk about Cowboy Way's antics a bit more in a second as well. But where do you see the next challenge coming from for the Young Guns as we get ever closer now? 5 months or so left on the road to Wembley?
Honestly, I don't know. I always say to you, Dave, just give me time. We need to go away and we need to have conversations.
No, I want answers now.
Well, look, Gates of Agony were fantastic this weekend without a doubt, and there's no doubt they want to be. They feel they belong in the wrestling's elite, right? And I say it, I make no bones about saying this. The Undisputed British Tag Team Championships are the most important tag team gold in the whole of independent professional wrestling. You hold that championship gold, it means something. I'm sure the Gates of Agony would love a piece of that. I'm sure the Gates of Agony would love to, continue this war path that they've started this weekend. So can you rule the Gates of Agony out? Absolutely not. It would be a physical challenge. And, when we speak about physical challenges, Cowboy Way, tonight, one of the most physical tag team matches I think I've ever seen anywhere, not just in RevPro, anywhere. And I think Cowboy Way would love another crack at that whip. There's many more teams that want that championship gold. And the thing is, with Wembley in the distance, but looming closer and closer and closer as the weeks go by, and the feature match, or one of the feature matches, but the only match which has been announced being for those Undisputed British Tag Team Championships, if the Young Guns can hang on to them, because the match is happening regardless, it just adds that extra sense of pressure. It adds that extra sense of spotlight, and everyone wants a piece of that. And the demands are no different. Gates of Agony are no different. And I'm sure there's tag teams all over the world that want a piece of that. And the Young Guns are proving, 1 year's tag team champions now, they're proving why they have that claim to being the best tag team in the world, and they want that validation. And they feel to get that validation, they need to get through FTR August 29th live from Wembley Arena.
Well, I said I'd talk about Cowboy Way, and we want to apologise, I think, for the way they conducted themselves. As we went off air, we chose to kind of close the broadcast because things felt like they were getting a little bit out of control. As Cowboy Way attacked some of our contenders in their frustration after losing that tag title match. I'm not trying to justify it at all, obviously. I'm just trying to think from one called Manda's perspective in particular. He started this weekend with the possibility of winning championships on both nights. In the end, someone did win championships on both nights, Alexis Falcon, but not one called Mandas, who could have had that kind of weekend, but didn't. You can't understand the behaviour. It was inexcusable, but you can understand the frustration, right?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. And I feel like whatever happened post-match, whatever happened in the post-match comments, I heard some shouting in the corridor. I presume that was one called Manders. Whatever happened there, I think you can excuse it after leaving everything, his heart, his soul, his body, everything in the ring across 2 nights. And again, 2 of the most physical matches I can ever remember seeing. So I can understand the frustration. I'm not condoning it. I can absolutely understand it. And I think that when the dust settles and the smoke's cleared, we'll have a conversation with Cowboy Way, and we'll kind of see where things stand. But as it stands, they're both scheduled to be in Southampton next weekend. So we'll just see how this all unfolds,
Obviously, part of that frustration, not just from the tag match, but the previous night, Manda's challenged Jay Joshua in the main event of high stakes, unbelievable battle for the Undisputed British Heavyweight title. Jay Joshua holding on to the title. We saw him in a non-title match tonight against Elvin Narayan, one of our contenders. Joshua won the match, but just as he was celebrating that victory, attacked by a masked man who turned out to be Will Cruz. So with everything else going on, the Revolution Road tournament, it's people vying to be the next person to challenge for the championship, Will Cruz making his intentions known. What does that do to things? That's another spanner in the works.
It's another spanner in the works, yeah. But it's another example of, everyone wants the top prizes in professional wrestling, and the top prizes in independent wrestling live in Revolution Pro Wrestling. Will Cruz came out, he made a statement, wants to make things personal with Jay Joshua. Again, it's interesting, isn't it? Because Jay Joshua was talking about the physicality of one called Manders, the hardest hitter he's ever been in the ring with. And then you see the size of Will Cruz next to Jay Joshua, and you think perhaps Will Cruz might be able to hit harder. The offense that he laid out on our contenders was just insane. And it's again, this is an emerging thing. It's something that is new. We need to talk about what the next steps are. I need to speak to Jay Joshua as well. We need to figure out what we're going to do. But things just got very interesting And it's one of those things, isn't it? It's lonely at the top when you're the champion. There's a target on your back always. And whilst Jay Joshua may have had one eye after defeating one called Manders yesterday, after Jay Joshua's may have one eye on that Revolution Road tournament and start scouting potential opponents for Revolution Rumble, there's a lot of wrestling to be done between now and the Revolution Rumble. Look at the key dates which are coming up between now and then. We just keep rolling and rolling and rolling, and that's one of the beauties about what we do now. We week in, week out, producing the highest level of professional wrestling. So we will see what happens.
Well, you talked about the Revolution Rumble, and we've been talking about the Revolution Road tournament. We've completed the lineup for who is going to be in the quarterfinals. I know the draw is happening tomorrow. You'll be able to see that here on the RevPro YouTube channel. 4 people making the list. So we'd already had 4 qualified before this weekend. Trent Seven and Arcade J were 2 of the 4 who made it through to the quarterfinals this weekend. Congratulations to them. Let's talk about Michael Oku and Connor Mills, though. Connor Mills getting the victory tonight in Coventry over a debuting Tate Mayfair's, using Oku's half crab to get the tap out victory. Oku defeated Manlak Doris yesterday in Wolverhampton to get his quarterfinal slot. His match against Ricochet tonight was not a tournament match, but he did try and win it with Mills's ankle lock. Just an hour or so, not even, after Mills had won with the half crab. Oku specifically said, if you remember, at the start of this tournament, that Connor Mills is no longer on his mind. His focus is 100% on the Revolution Road tournament. After what we just saw tonight and how that may well have cost Oku the match against Ricochet, what Oku said about Mills not being in his head is just fundamentally not true, right?
You'll have to ask Michael Oku that. I feel that it was... When I was watching the matches, it felt like Mills going for that ankle lock Mills going for the half crab. It happened after a scramble where he had the ankle lock applied and Tate was trying to escape, and Mills found that half crab. And I theorized that, the attention the time training with Michael Oku and the attention that Connor Mills has put towards Michael Oku. Let's make this clear. Connor Mills has never beaten Michael Oku in a singles match, right? And we know that he's in some part obsessed with that idea of finally defeating Michael Oku. We thought his time was uprising in December, but that didn't happen. And I think you'd have to be a fool to think that Connor Mills isn't still continuing to train for a potential rematch with Michael Oku, especially knowing they're both in this Revolution Road, especially knowing the random nature of the draw, especially knowing they could meet one another. He's made his intentions clear. He wants to be the undisputed British heavyweight champion. He would love nothing more than to compete against a man he calls his brother in Jay Joshua in that Revolution Rumble championship match. So he knows, if everything aligns at some point, they may have to face each other, and if he's going to get through him, he has to beat him, which means he's got to scout him, he's got to work out his colds, his counter holds, etc. Conor Mills got very high wrestling IQ, and he will have figured out some of the ways Michael Oku gets into that half crab, and perhaps that's why he saw that opening to grab that crab on. I don't think it was malicious. I don't think that he was trying to send a message to Michael Oku.
No.
Again, look, you're trying to stir stuff.
I'm not trying to stir. I think it's more than a coincidence that Connor Mills is using the half crab.
Yes, and I'm explaining why.
Dave. You're giving a possible explanation.
Look, so all I'm saying is watch Tate Mayfair's, right? Yeah. He was struggling, he was scrambling, he was moving. I don't think, it wasn't like Connor Mills, he was going for that ankle lock initially. It wasn't like he, deliberately went for that half crab.
Right. I'm skeptical.
Okay,
draw your own conclusions.
Well, maybe you're
skeptical. Can draw your own conclusions on that.
But this is why I see it. But it was very clear that Michael Oku saw it the way you're seeing it.
We can agree on that.
And we can absolutely agree on that. And perhaps, did you speak to Michael Oku before? I don't know.
No, of course not. But I mean, I don't know.
Maybe he was watching and heard your commentary. Have you ever thought about that, Dave?
Well,
I'm just saying it.
Look, how are you stirring? Okay. Let's stop on that one right now. We know the quarterfinals coming up. 2 of them going to be in Southampton this coming Sunday. 2 of them live in London on April 5th as this Revolution Road tournament.
And then Cardiff, April 12th, we'll see the semi-finals.
Yes, and speaking of Cardiff, April 12th, epic encounter. One person who has made their plans for that day clear. They a request, if you like. Leon Slater on behalf of Cameron Kai, saying that Kai, having pinned Joe Lando twice now, remember, once in Sheffield a couple of weeks back, once tonight in the tag team action, that Cameron Kai should get his shot at the Cruiserweight Championship at Epic Encounter. I want to get your response to that, whether that's what's going to happen. I also want you to talk maybe a little more generally on the fact that Lando and Kai exchanged pins on each other over our 2 days here in the West Midlands.
Yeah, well, look, we're going to make the match happen, right? And I think there's, again, layers to everything. I'm aware. I don't want to kind of go too long here. We're covering 2 shows. Lots of eventful stuff has happened. But we're going to make the match happen. Obviously Joe Lando got that win yesterday. You could give the assist to Leighton Buzzard perhaps because he sacrificed himself. It was a very different environment than what we witnessed tonight. When it was one-on-one singles competition a couple of weeks ago, Cameron Kai was victorious. He was able to pin him again tonight. Does he have the number of Joe Lando? Who knows? But I tell you one thing for sure, Liam Slater might not think that Cameron Kai is ready for that Cruiserweight Championship match, but Leon Slater certainly does. And Cameron Kai listens to Leon Slater. Cameron Kai idolizes that young man. And
but where does that leave Liam Slater?
I don't know. That's the thing, isn't it? Like, they seem to all be on the same page last night at the conclusion of that Leon Slater and Connor Mills match. So if I was to say anything, I'd say I'm sure that Liam Slater has got something to say. So watch this space.
All right. Well, look, as we said, we are rolling on. We are headed to Southampton this coming week. We know we're going to have 2 of the 4 quarterfinals in the Revolution Road tournament. That draw being made tomorrow, Monday. So we will know very shortly what those 2 matches are. You said Cowboy Way are going to be with us in Southampton as well. Anything else you can tell us about what's going to happen next Sunday, the 29th?
Not right now. No, it's going to be a banging show. Like, it's going to be good. I promise you that. Come along. Have a good time. You know? That's it. That's what I've got for you.
All right. Well, we'll let you go get some rest. It's been a long day, a long weekend, but what a weekend of action. Again, if you haven't seen both High Stakes yesterday in Wolverhampton and live in Coventry from today, go to RevProOnDemand.com as soon as you possibly can. Both of them were absolute must-see shows. Andy, thanks as always. We will see you next Sunday. In Southampton. Revolution Road tournament rolls on. Everything else going crazy as well. This is a wild, wild time in Revolution Pro Wrestling. We will see you in Southampton.